Mr. Stuppler, the current situation in America with people out of work, not knowing where to turn, and not knowing who to trust. I see on your information here you've got About Us, which gives them a great information about you, the founder and president, and the why people should turn to you. Can you give us any general information to protect them other than educate yourself? I mean, should we stay away from, for example, should we stay away from certain hotel room activities where people are saying we're going to buy gold at this hotel this Saturday, things like that? Are there any certain things that maybe we could stay away from that might be helpful?
I think what you're asking is about red flags, which are things that should kind of scare you away a little bit. And when you see these big ads in the local newspaper, where they take 2 or 3 page ads and they're in a hotel room for 2 or 3 days and then they leave, you have to understand most states and municipalities have second-hand licensing, where dealers can be licensed. This is to protect against if a home invasion robbery, somebody robs an individual and then wants to obviously sell it as quickly as possible and get the money for it. So local police departments have what they call second-hand holding laws, which means that when you go to a legitimate dealer in your area and you sell your material to him, whether it be gold or gold or silver, or you would have to fill out the form. That they would have to hold it for 30 days, send a list of the inventory to the local police department so they make sure that it isn't stolen, and then after 30 days it clears and then they can sell it. Now, most of these people that set up on hotels don't do this, so in most cases they're in violation of the local law. So you're dealing with somebody who's violating the law, which initially is not, I wouldn't recommend.
Right.
Then they're there for only 2 or 3 days. If you change your mind after 2 or 3 days, if you find out that you're not getting a fair value for your material, it's what we refer to these people as gypsy gold hotel buyers. And there are various states that are now putting regulations and licensing requirements against this because they're concerned about the fact that unscrupulous individuals will set up in hotels, buy the material for 10 to 15% of the true value, and then just leave town.
Right.
And that's not healthy for anybody that's involved, law enforcement or the individual selling it. So that's one issue. Another issue is when you're on the internet and the person that you're thinking about dealing with doesn't tell you who they are, doesn't tell you their name, where they're out of a post office box in the middle of some rural area. That's not a good sign because you want to make sure that they're a member of the local Better Business Bureau, and they should be rated by them. They should be a member of the Professional Numismatic Guild if they've been doing rare coins and precious metals. There are various trade associations that you can check into.
Barry, can we get to that right after the break? I'm up against a hard break here. Can we continue this on the other side of the break real quick?
We'll do that.
All right. Thank you so much. Folks, we're visiting with Barry Stuppler, the founder of Stuppler & Company out of California. And when you're with Balancing Your Budget, you know you're getting the voice of financial truth. And we're joined today by Mr. Barry Stuppler, the founder and owner of Stuppler & Company, where you can go for all of your precious metal needs and information. And Barry, thanks again for sticking around after the break and coming back to be with us today. You were just sharing with our listeners about more information as to some red flags, things that they should look out for and protect themselves from. And just so you know, reason I asked about the hotel thing, I travel all over and I teach finances and I doing book tours and things like that. I stay in a lot of hotels, and this past year I've seen more of these hotel gypsies, as you described them, than I've ever seen before. It must be a pretty lucrative business. Well,
with gold at $1,350 to $1,400 an ounce, the average person on the street doesn't realize that just a small little broken chain that they might think is worth $20 or $30 could be worth $200 or $300. So when they go to somebody who's buying it at a fraction of the value and they offer them $20 or $30, they go, "Oh, that sounds fair." The reality is they have to calculate themselves. They have to spend a little bit of time. they have a postage scale or whatever, but to calculate the value, if you go to on our website, in the top left-hand corner of the website, there's a link that says how to get the best price for your gold jewelry. And in there, it's a step-by-step process, and we explain. We even give examples and explain how you can determine the value, and I provide the finenesses on the website, and people can actually go through and take if they have this little bathroom scale and a magnifying glass to be able to verify what they have is 14 karat or 18 karat or even 10 karat, class rings or 10 karat. They can easily look at that and take the step-by-step, and then they'll know what the value is. And a fair value from a gold buyer should be somewhere around 75 to 80%, allowing them a fair profit, but not 10% or 20% like many of these hoteler buyers try to buy the material for. So we're trying to educate the public, to share with them that they have something very valuable when they own gold. And whether they're using it or whether they want to invest in it, they should at least determine the value of what they have and what they could liquidate it for, because gold is the ultimate currency. That's what you're hearing now more and more by economists, that we're possibly going to somewhere down the line incorporate gold into a gold standard, because gold is proven for thousands of years to be the real store of value, and that's why people should know what they have, the value of what they have, whether they're investing in it or they own it to wear. You have to spend a little bit of time to know what you have.
Well, and there's pros and cons to both sides of returning to the gold standard, and obviously many of us would think it would make things a lot easier to deal with, and you wouldn't have to worry about overinflating currency or currency wars. Everybody would know exactly what things are really worth. But then there's others on the other side of the coin, literally, that think returning to the gold standard is never going to happen, and it's impossible to ever do that.
The reality is yes, it's going to be very hard to return to a gold standard, because it's going to restrict governments from monetizing currency, from going into debt. In our case, trillions of dollars worth of debt. It's going to put a lot of stringent controls on what they can spend and what they can't spend. And as you know, legislators don't like those type of controls. So when you try to incorporate a gold standard into the value of currency, it's always has a lot of opponents, because they don't want to have those controls put on what they can and cannot spend. But as an individual, and what you have to find is you have to find a way to store your value. You have to find something safe to keep your money in. When you hear about the dollar going down in value, you don't see it because you're an American. Everything here is priced in dollars, so you don't necessarily see it. But all you hear about is the value of our currencies dropping in regards to yen or euros. And then when you hear that, you don't know how to react. And most people that are concerned about that, particularly large net worth individuals, tend to go to gold, right, and to have at least 15 to 20% of their net value in gold, because they know that this will protect them in case we have some serious problems with currency globally. Right.
Well, a few years ago, my wife and I went to Europe, and we went through England and over to Italy. And we realized just how little the dollar was worth when you get over there. And a can of Coke, just a regular can of Coke that you may spend 75 cents or $1 for today, over here, you could spend $6 to $8 for that can of Coke over in Venice, Italy. It's amazing because of one because of the transportation cost to get it there, but a lot of it's due to the exchange rate between the euro and the dollar. Now, when we were there, the euro was worth about $1.75. So in other words, we were paying almost double what the what a dollar was really worth. So yeah, when you're dealing in foreign currency, it can be quite challenging, and it's rather eye-opening when you're on the short end of the exchange rate, I'll tell you.
Well, with the exception of imported goods, I mean, most of our food and beverage products are produced domestically here. But when you're looking at a car that happens to come from outside the country, or whether it be from Japan or from Germany. It doesn't make any difference. The value, it's always converted into dollars. So if when the dollar is weak, the cost of a car from Japan is going to cost more than it was the year before. Right now, a lot of the goods from Walmart are coming out of China, are being produced in China because it's more affordable. But at some point, they're starting to look, even the Chinese are starting to look towards Vietnam to get things produced even less expensively. So there's always a constant look for where we could produce a good product at a price that we can pass on to our consumer, particularly like companies like Walmart. They are always looking for the best way to keep prices as low as possible. So sometimes you don't necessarily see the inflationary issues, but you will see them in terms of things, staples like foods, and obviously things that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Bear with me just a second, Barry. I've got a clip pulled up from October 22nd when I talked with Dr. Rex Ghosh of the International Monetary Fund. He had some things to say about the dollar. Can you bear with me just a second while we play this clip real quick? All right, hang on.
Sure.
China has reserves, most of which are probably in dollars. It's $2.5 trillion.
Right. Well, all right. Well, China has about $2.5 trillion, according to Dr. Ghosh, from the International Monetary Fund. That's a lot of dollars, and it kind of gives us an indication of when you're talking about reserve currency, Barry, as we were discussing just briefly, what people want the dollar, but as he was saying, the devaluation of the dollar is making it to where people are deciding whether or not they want to hold the dollar or do they have to hold the dollar, and that makes a big difference as to how much of our currency that they utilize or accept in other countries. What you're saying is, we go back to the gold standard, the dollar would actually be worth something again.
Yeah, yes, and what you're talking about is primarily the BRIC countries, which are Brazil, Russia, India, and China. You're starting to see they hold a substantial amount of dollars as part of their foreign reserves, and they're starting to move more towards gold, and you're starting to see this on a global basis. The IMF has been selling off some gold to raise money for underdeveloped countries, and countries even like Bangladesh has bought 10 metric tons of gold. So there's a tremendous amount of movement away from holding dollars as their reserve currency to holding gold. So this is this is movement by country. When you see countries like India and China buying literally tonnage of gold, it's scary, because if anybody's in the know, it's countries like this who are concerned about holding paper, our currency, as their reserves, and they hold substantial amounts. There was I don't know if your listeners saw it, but there was a wonderful skit on Saturday Night Live, I think last Saturday, where they had Barack Obama and during his visit to China, and the Chinese were bringing up the issue of are they ever going to get their money back? And it was a wonderful skit. I fell down on the floor laughing a number of times, and it's possibly accessible through the internet, but it just basically got the point across that we're a major debtor nation, and China has the opportunity right now to start to, and you're starting to see it, to convert a lot of their dollar assets into other assets, and they would be very supportive of some type of a gold standard or some type of a gold backing to currency.
Oh, sure, because they know they could get their money back. Yeah, and it's sad to see the once wealthiest, strongest nation on the face of the earth in the history of the world being deteriorated and fall the way that America has. And of course, those of us who understand know that fall began when we turned away from God and started turning into ourselves. And but we're not going to get into a preaching session here today. The website is Stuppler.com, and we're going to put a link on our website at godsdollar.com. We've been joined by Mr. Barry Stuppler, the founder and owner of Stuppler Company Incorporated. And if you'd like more information about how to contact him, about finding out how to protect yourself or how to benefit or profit from gold jewelry and things like that, make sure you visit our website at godsdollar.com and then go to Stuppler.com, where he will be happy to help you. Barry, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope maybe you'll come back again sometime where we can talk more about how to protect our listeners from scams. Barry, thanks again. Folks, we've been joined by Barry Stuppler, and appreciate you taking time. You have a blessed day, my friend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Take care now.